Okay.
Nice.
I'd like to call to order, can I say that, Dawn? The September 5th meeting of the Amenia Town Board. And we will start, as we always do, by saluting the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. I know you're all regular attendees, but just for the record, the fire exits to the door you came in and this door over here. And then Dawn's going to do the roll call.
Supervisor
Yes?
Blackman? Yes.
Here. Yes.
Council members Winters?
Here.
Rabillard?
Here.
Ahern? Here. And let the record reflect that Deputy Supervisor Rosanna Ham will be absent this evening.
Okay. Well, public comments. Is anyone, well, I assume you do, Tonya, since you gave us a written version. Okay.
So I'm actually speaking as a former town appointee as the Trail to the Train Committee Chair. So the first comment I'd like to bring to your attention is about the wooden handrails on the boardwalk of the Trail to the Train that have warped and are now lifted off the sides of the guardrails in places going up to the Wasaik train station. As you may know, I was the chairperson of the Trail to the Train Committee, and we had recommended using a composite wood that would not warp. Since the town paid $1.4 million to the firm, the engineering firm that installed the boardwalk, that we did not recommend as the committee, I would like to recommend that this firm be required to repair and replace the damaged wood. There's also major overgrowth go all along the boardwalk, all sorts of vines and, trees. It's really serious, and that kind of overgrowth has not been removed and could further damage the wood on the boardwalk. So my first question is, who is charged with maintaining the trail? Originally, it was Dutchess County who had agreed to do so, and then I understand Mr. Molinaro reneged on that, even though he had promised it when we started. It seems that it has now reverted to the town's responsibility to remove the overgrowth.
Yeah.
But it has not been being done.
I don't know how that happened. Do you, Dawn? I mean, you've been here long enough that you might actually know the answer to that question.
How the growth happened?
No. I know you know that,
I'm like,
Dawn.
we all
That was
know
like
that.
asking who's buried in Grant's tomb.
So with the parts of that, I think that it'd be best that you go ahead and look into that before we provide a
Okay.
response.
Tony, I have a question.
Yes.
Is it that the only section the town has a responsibility for? Because going north,
This is the wooden boardwalk part.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
The raised boardwalk
But I
is
mean
wood.
about the overgrowth and stuff
Yes.
like that. So going north of the train, isn't that the county's responsibility?
That is the county, yeah.
That
Yeah.
the north of where the train station is the county's responsibility.
All right.
We had originally received a commitment from the Dutchess County, which I believe you could revisit, now that county executive former Molinaro is no longer there. Maybe they would consider doing that because they had agreed to it before. However, the removal of the snow was done by the town because it's required that it be, maintained 24 hours a day because people come off the train. It is a walkable transit
Pedestrian
trail. It's not just a rail trail the way the rest of the trail is. It is required that it be maintained. So those two things are rather important, and, I think it should be investigated and followed up on.
Okay.
So you're thinking that the town of Amenia should be trimming along the trail?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
They
okay.
have to, up until the train station.
Okay.
So have a look. If you walk down from the train station, you will see that these warps have gone right up. And
The only thing I would comment is, I've been in construction a rather long time, and composite exposed to the sun over a long term does also warp tremendously.
Oh, okay, so maybe they should just
Maybe
replace
we
it.
should-
It's only been a couple of years, and this wood
So,
is
right,
in
so, and
bad
then
shape.
composite will do the same thing. If it's not secured like every foot or so, every 12 inches or so, if it's exposed to the sun,
Yeah.
it'll just warp
Good.
as well.
I think it would be great, Paul, if you could take a walk down and give your professional opinion, since you
I'll take a
are
look at
a
it.
professional in the field.
That wood, it was unfinished, right? They never put
It
any
was
sealer.
unfinished. It should have been,
There was no sealer, there was
what's
nothing
it
done
called
to
when they
it.
compress it? It should have been compressed wood.
Wood.
And it wasn't. And so
Pressure treated?
Pressure treated, that's
Right.
what I meant.
But it also wasn't sealed or anything.
It was not sealed, it
Yeah,
should have
but
been pressure treated.
Wood is sealed already.
Right.
It was
but
not
it
sealed,
wasn't.
and it
wasn't
was not
maintained.
pressure-treated wood. And the thing is that we had constantly said, do not hire an engineering firm. The firm we recommended was going to do it for $800,000. This went to 1.4 million. So since we paid so much money, and it was an engineering firm, I think that it should be, I don't know what the contract was, you'd have to look at it again to see if they're, if you have to, I don't know how you would do it, but you have to look at the contract.
We'll investigate,
Yeah,
right.
normally contracts have at least 365 days in warranty on it. But
Yeah.
maybe the material that was installed had some type of
It's
warranty.
been more than that time.
But even then, some material that they'll offer a 5-year.
Yeah, 5-year would be good. So
So
that,
Tonya, can you move on to your second?
second point, the Thomas Young Park, which Paul asked me who was Thomas Young and what was the park. Just for everybody's information, Thomas Young was the founder in the 1700s of Amenia. Personally, I think it should be called the Tonya Shumatoff Park, because I was the person who was the whistleblower that got the landfill cleaned up with the help of Maurice Hinchy and everybody else. Anyway, there are beautiful trails around that capped landfill, which were part of the $13 million cleanup, which you may have heard about. It was part of the remediation requirement that the landfill, that the park be open to the public. The gate is now locked and it's not open. The town of Sharon is charged with maintaining and mowing the top of the landfill in perpetuity. Have they been given a key? I have not been able to look because I can't get in. There's a lovely parking area there. There are trails that go all the way around, down to the wetlands and back up. It would be so nice for people. You can even have picnics, put benches there. I would like to request that the park be open for public use as originally intended. The parking area is very adequate, and the previous supervisor had decided not to open it without stating a reason to the public. So I think that should be, that should happen. And it would be lovely for people to be able to go and enjoy.
Thank you. We need a full-time private eye, apparently, to investigate all this stuff. I'll put that in next year's budget. Thank you.
All the best.
Anyone else have comments or questions? Okay, this is going to be a quick meeting. I will give the supervisor's report. Hopefully tonight, for the first time ever, these are in order.
One thing, sorry.
Yes?
Kent Polsky, Cascade Mountain Road. I noticed you're starting to get into budgeting on the various committees. I've received notices. Is there access to any financial statements, profit loss, anything, so that when looking at budgets, we know what the town has spent to date? We can compare it to the current expenditures so that we can make recommendations. For instance, you're talking about a lot of capital improvements this year. Was that much budgeted in last year's budget? By seeing how much you're projecting, we could make better decisions on the committee level, better recommendations, and certainly on the public level, we know that we went over budget in this. So I'm just wondering whether those sorts of financial documents are available to the public.
Totally understand that. I could let our budget director answer that more specifically, since he's been immersed in this already. But you should also know that the budget hearings are open to the public. So at least there's that. And I don't know, do you know what's on the website in terms of the financials? Yes, please.
So currently, the town doesn't post its operating, which are operating statements, which are your actually, income statements would be for like a business. We can totally start doing that. The year-to-date spends for all of the appropriations accounts will be a column on the tentative budget, which will be presented to the town clerk in the next couple of weeks. So capital projects are not really part of an appropriation in your budget unless a capital project has already been approved and then financing has been for it. So does that answer the question? Okay, thanks.
Okay. Okay. All right, so.
We have one more.
What? Oh, we have another one. Sorry, Judy. Didn't see you because I was not looking up.
Yeah, okay.
Given the conversation about, well, what I would call a budget status report, I guess you're calling it an operating budget, a statement, okay. Operating statement, yeah, it would be great to be able to see those on the website, to get an idea of what budget lines may have been, are very close to being spent, might go overspent, or in fact didn't have anything in them, that it would give people in the public an idea of what's happening. Yeah, I would really ask that you can do that.
Okay, well, we all have talked a lot about transparency, so we'll discuss that as to what we can do.
Maybe with the new website, we can do it better.
Okay. Okay, right. Supervisor's report. Okay. I'll try to be quick since there's too many categories. So the sidewalk to Beekman Park, Labella, who are the engineers, are revising the drawings for New York State DOT. They think that should only take a few more weeks.
Gentlemen.
And they're still hoping that they can start construction this fall. So I'm very mistrustful of those kinds of pronouncements, but we'll see. It would be really nice to have that sidewalk in place at least for the spring. The Maplebrook crosswalk that Rosanna has been very focused on. DOT, New York State DOT was really unhelpful, and it seems like we're going to have to contact our New York State representative and senator to push DOT to get anything done. So I'll put that on my list too of investigating. The Center of Wassaic. The new report from the title search company is still inconclusive. I do have a new lead at the MTA who I'm going to contact on Monday. But I did suggest to the Enhancement Committee, since the board discussed this a long time ago, that we would like to proceed with that project with or without the title report. I told the Enhancement Committee that they should start meeting and also look for a landscape architect, because I think one way or the other, with 100% backup or not, I think that project ought to move ahead. We've done work in that area before, and it just seems silly to me to just delay and delay and delay. The LED message board, I had Charlie spend more time with the manufacturers, 2 manufacturers, and everyone on the board seemed to be in favor. So we'll discuss that further tonight and also prepare an RFP. A graphic designer, I would like someone, now that we're doing this message board, it occurs to me that we have no standards for our font and colors, and we do have other signage to do besides that. And our seal is essentially illegible because it wasn't very good to begin with. It's been copied so many times, unless anyone in the room did it, in which case it's lovely. So anyway, I'm going to try to get proposals for someone to do that work, which is something I've wanted to do for a while, but just hadn't gotten to it. Town hall lighting, there have been complaints Dawn being one of the complainers, about some safety issues around Town Hall. One of them is that someone can approach the building at night and not have light on them, so part of it was just a motion sensor fixture on the outside the courtroom and outside her office. But I think, and our building manager would like lighting to illuminate the flag, which would allow him to let it stay up over the weekends. And it would also be nice to better light the entry points, all of them. So I'm also working on an RFP for a lighting designer to propose fixtures for those purposes. It does look like a facility for the criminally insane with the lighting we have currently, so I'm hoping that we can come up with something better than that. Town website, still investigating potential vendors and costs, although I think we've got some in mind to request proposals from. Planning and zoning boards, still hoping to replace the AV equipment in the meeting room before the end of the year, and expect we'll have more information at the next meeting. I spoke to an AV firm, and it's taken them a while to do a proposal, but it turns out that's because they've been doing sketches and looking at equipment without a contract, which is not a great thing. But in any event, it's too late now, and they will give us information before the next meeting. And I will talk to you, Mike, about that as soon as I hear anything. The ambulance service. The 3 supervisors and their 3 attorneys had a Zoom meeting and decided to send a letter to the Northern Dutchess paramedics to basically to extend the contract or renew the contract, which was in the previous contract. But there's a concern that because of COVID and all the stuff that's happened in the last 5 years, that's not a realistic number for NDP. So anyway, we wanted to remind them that we have that in the previous contract and are hoping to use that in negotiations, which I hope will start soon, especially because we would like to have that cost for budgeting, since that's a pretty significant chunk of the budget. Highway employees, there was a Zoom meeting this afternoon with our labor attorney to kind of prepare for negotiating with the highway garage workers and their union rep. And I think that we met with Charlie as budget director, me, and Megan, who's responsible for the highway garage, as you know, and I think we came to an agreement about what things we could be flexible about and which not. The gymnasium floor, I did speak to our contractor, this contractor that we had hired, and they are still planning to start the work in the fall. I know they have other commitments, and I asked them to give us a specific date, and we're still waiting for the brother of the person I spoke to confirm the date, so I will call them again on Monday. NECC, we actually excitingly signed a contract with NECC yesterday to use the second floor space as their satellite office, and we hope to be operational within a month. They will provide social services, senior programs, and after-school programs, which will be very exciting. And when I spoke to Christine Sargent, who came here to sign the documents, she said that she, in her previous job, had to design a number of kitchens for similar facilities, and recommended someone to talk to as a designer, so I will be in touch with them next week as well. I also just heard from Paul Bengstrom, who said that their plan on the farmers market is to start the winter market in the gym on November 1st. By that point, all the farmers' commitments should be over for the season, and hopefully they'll have a choice of people to engage. The cannabis local law, we received a draft from the planners, and we're going to discuss that this evening. Deputy building inspector, sadly the candidate that we had all agreed on to hire called me this week to say that he dropped out, so we need to restart the search. He was very concerned. His neighbors apparently told him that he would be the most hated man in Amenia if he took that job. And
He doesn't live here.
what?
He didn't live here in town, did he?
Yes, he does.
He does. So, and I thought I was the most hated man in Amenia, so I'm sort of bothered by that. But anyway, that was enough to convince him not to do it. I've also spoken to the town engineer about gathering and digitizing information on conditions of approval from the planning board to make them easier to track and enforce. Obviously, that's been a problem in terms of the zoning enforcement, is that we don't have the best communication, and we certainly don't have any kind of online information in terms of what should be reviewed at various sites. The other thing that was interesting is that for me, the building inspector had recommended a potential candidate, someone who works part-time in Pine Plains. I met with him today, and we'll probably want to interview him, but I'm going to try to check some references before we do that. He's only been there less than a year. He has gotten all his training, though. His training credits are all finished, so at least there's that. And so I'll get you more information when I have it. The transfer to the town of the Amenia Kilns, which is the world's slowest legal process apparently, and most complicated possibly, is still moving ahead, but at a glacial pace. And we're hoping within a month or so that might get pinned down. And the 2025 budget, all the departments have returned their individual requests for money. I'm going to go through those with Charlie, and I'll probably meet some of the department heads if there are things that are unclear, and then we'll get started on an actual preliminary budget. So that's the supervisor's lengthy report. Dawn, it's up to you. Ooh.
It's not a public comment, but just wanted
You still need to
official. This
stand
is
up.
Walter Dietrich. I've already been in contact with Michelle Hinchy's office and Pat Ryan's office regarding the DOT. If you would like me to help you out on that when
Thank
you're
you.
ready for it. I had stepped back because of the election. Nothing's going to happen for a while, but
Okay.
I have a lot of information already.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay. So good evening. Real quick, for the prior meeting minutes of August 15th, have you guys had the opportunity to review?
Yes.
And is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll
Leo?
second it.
Paul? Supervisor Blackman?
Yes.
Councilmembers Winters?
Yes.
Brevard?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Thank you. And just so you guys know, our total state, county, and local share has been collected and remitted to the supervisor as follows. Total collected was $1,015.35, and the local being remitted in the amount of $985.35.
Only 1,015, that's the best we could do.
That's all we could do. That's all we could do.
Okay.
So we know it's September. We talk about our fall colors, but what I think about is all of our, we're back to school. We have a bus driver on the team. It's nice to have another bus driver up here at the table.
That's why
So
she's
I
wearing
like to give
black, I
this-
think.
So I always like to give this speech. Remember, school's back in session. Please make sure you're mindful and driving safely. And you know you have to leave a few minutes early because those big, beautiful yellow buses are out and they're going to stop every other house with the red lights on. We do have a lot of new young friends driving on the road. So let's be mindful of that. But, you know, we think about school coming back. I think about pancake breakfast. That means at the Amenia Firehouse, pancake breakfast is coming back. So it's a big announcement. September 15th will be our first one this season.
I'm sorry, September 15th?
September, it's Sunday, September 15th. Come on down after 7:30. Some fresh eggs, pancakes. They're famous here in this part of the valley. You know, bacon, sausage, you can have it all. But another big excitement of saving the dates is our Holiday of Lights. So the parade is coming back. It's going to be Sunday, December 1st. You'll hear me, you know, start blasting this out. But as we're starting to save those dates and getting ready for our holiday season, which is approaching, those are our events coming up.
Great.
Cool.
And that concludes the town clerk's report tonight.
Wow. So I guess the first discussion item is the highway garage. We received the 7 proposals, which is a sort of insane amount of reading. We asked the town engineer to make recommendations, and the next step would be setting up interviews if we can narrow down the field. I'm sorry, let me just pull that thing out of here. Oh, of course, it was at the back. Okay, so John Andrews, our town engineer, had talked about basically what we got in a letter, what we had received, and, was generally pleased with the stuff that was received. It did follow all the stuff that we requested. But in narrowing it down to 3 or 4, it was 3 plus. He had recommended CPL and Labella, who did the original feasibility study for the highway garage, and CED. He recommended CPL and CED because they both have a local presence, actually as does Labella, and have done work upstate. So they have experience. The issue of how many highway garages they had done, I actually looked at the 3 that were recommended, and I think they all had like 6 or 7 projects, so we feel fairly comfortable that they have a good amount of experience. John recommended that we consider DCAK MSA Architecture and Engineering, which is a women-owned firm, which is lovely, except that their bid was about 4 times, something like 4 times the other bids. So I think it doesn't really make sense because it doesn't make any sense financially. So Collier's Engineering and Design was $435,000, CPL was $361,000, and Labella was $328,000. So I think that I think that we'll need to talk about that as a board and figure out what our next step is when we're in executive session tonight. But I'm hoping that after that we can kind of come to a consensus about who we should ask to come in for an interview. But I was pleased to see that certainly 3 of them have, really good experience and seem competent, and that's a good thing for us all. Did you all have any thoughts or any recommendations on the engineering stuff?
I did. I really liked CPL. They actually did the county highway, so they
did.
The county highway is in there. Bob Ballkind, the commissioner of the county highway department. Yeah, and they also have. They're the only one that I saw. Maybe I missed one, but that had grant services that they also help with. So I thought that would be nice.
Kind of same thing for me piqued my interest as far as them offering that service with
the
CPL.
grant?
Yeah, the grant searching.
Anyone else, Brad?
Yeah, I had a question. When he's talking about his fee schedule, he strongly urged the board to approach this in the same fashion, deferring the fee analysis until such time as you have identified the most appropriate firm or firms. I'm not sure what he's referring to.
What he's referring to?
Yeah.
Because I think they all submitted fee schedules, and he didn't want us looking at them to determine who we wanted to interview. That's what I kind of took away from that.
Yeah.
In other words, that we have to think about the experience and quality of the firm in addition to just the price.
Until the time you have identified the most appropriate firm or firms. That's the thing, until the time you identify such appropriate firm or firms. That's what I don't understand.
Oh, well, that's the way most of these contracts work.
I was just, this is John's recommendation.
In terms of the fee, in terms of the part that the fee plays in the selection?
Yeah. Is that what that means?
Yeah. I mean, that's fairly standard. I think the county and the state do that too, in terms of saying that it shouldn't all be about the lowest bid. You want to make sure that it's someone who is competent as well.
I guess it's a timing thing. It doesn't make sense to me, the way it's written. That's
okay.
all. Yeah.
That I can't answer.
Yeah.
I apologize
hey.
walking in the middle of this. But my understanding is the engineer had written a recommendation letter to the board and made a recommendation to conduct interviews with regards to that. I think the next stage or step for that would be the board to just indicate if they want to do those particular interviews as recommended in that recommendation.
Right. Well, we have an executive session after this, so I think since we're actually talking about fairly intimate details of consultants' lives, that we should probably wait until then to talk about that. Okay, anything else on that subject? No. Okay. LED sign, I mentioned this last time, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone got it and was comfortable with this. So the town has immunity from the town zoning regulations, and the town signage regulations are particularly specific and strict. And one of those is that there shouldn't be any moving or changing parts to a sign, and it shouldn't be internally lit. This was written in 2007, so it was a while ago, and LED signage was, if it existed, pretty new. And I understand that the intent when they wrote the zoning code was that the downtown not look junky, Lady Bird Johnson and all that stuff. But I think that there is certainly, I certainly have heard a lot of concern about the fact that people don't know what's going on in town hall. And having had a water main break, and two actually, and not being able to reach people, that's yet another way that we can get the word out in a situation like that, in an emergency. It also allows us to post things that the Rec Commission is doing, special events, when the various board meetings are. So my sense is that kind of way outweighs the regulations in the code, and I would also hope that we could be specific enough in terms of our resolution that we can make it a sign with just lettering, not with like things flying across it and romantic sunsets and whatever, like some of the ones I pass on Route 22, that we would be specific about, it being white on a dark ground. That we really try to make it not unlike a church sign, a sort of traditional pin letter church sign, except that it can be changed on someone's computer inside instead of making some town employee go out there every day in the winter and stick those little pin letters in. So that's my feeling on that, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone else felt, relatively comfortable about that before.
I don't know if we have to go that strict as far as like the color and all that. The sign up at the high school down at the end of the road for the school district seems to be relatively calm.
And it is, that's what I was suggesting. It's white letters on a dark ground.
Is it white letters on a dark ground?
And the other thing about the white letters on a dark ground is that it's not as bright because it's just the letters that are bright as opposed to the whole board.
We'll get some people in the community pushing back, because I do believe one business did apply for a variance as far as whenever the movie theater opened up. They
Oh yeah, I was the chair of the zoning board. I know all about that.
Yeah.
It was ugly. People came in and I really thought, with some pitchforks actually and torches, and I thought my life was in danger.
It's kind of contradictory to us to do that and then deny it to
well,
other businesses.
it is and it isn't, and I'll call John Stephanopoulos before we move ahead on this and try to reassure him. But the reason is that because as a town we have there's sort of public information stuff we need to get out, and while the particular movie being shown is important to some of us, myself included, it's not as important as getting out the word in an emergency, what we're doing in town hall. Anyone else?
Oh, sure. The distinction is it's a public service. It's not an advertisement for anything going on in front of a business. It's pretty simple.
Well, that's what I'd like to believe, but I wanted you to all have your say before we went any further down that road.
He wants to make sure they come in with pitchforks for all of us.
Oh, well, yeah.
Not just him.
Yeah, I don't know. They just seemed concerned about the chair when it was signage at the drive-in. But, okay, whatever. I will call John too when we take a next step on that. Okay. Cannabis laws. So we have, and I think everyone received, a draft local law from our planning consultant. And this is based on stuff that we had requested along the way. I know that Rosanna had a concern about the distance from, I think it was schools, whatever's 200 feet, 1,000 feet.
200 was from parks,
200 from a place of
playgrounds.
worship or a park. So she had concerns about that, I know. And I was just actually surprised, I don't know if you've all looked at the maps.
Yep.
But I was actually a little surprised because we had sort of thought that we were only going to be able to have this kind of business in Freshtown Plaza, and we received maps that show a lot of other spots along 22. So I wanted to make sure that people had seen that and were comfortable with those locations.
It was my understanding, the correct terminology was mainly the strip of what we consider to be Main Street from Mechanic Street to Route 22. That was pretty much where the majority of us had agreed that we really didn't want to see anything out on that main street.
But are people then comfortable with having stuff sort of at various locations along 22? I mean, are people comfortable with that?
Well, you also got to remember that once it's not mapped out on here, that once you have one location, it's 2,000 feet to the next location.
Right.
So that would really, so like if you put something, say if you put something down by Fudgy's,
Yep.
that would take out anything all the way up to like basically up to the red light.
Really?
Yeah, that's close to 2,000 feet.
Okay, wait a second.
Maybe not quite that far, but it would be
probably
close.
a bit more than that. So they did more detailed maps which show location of libraries and parks and place of worship and school. So they indicate it's 200-foot buffer from a place of worship or a park, 300 from a library, and 500 from a school. And I assume school means playground? No.
No, well, so it says still 200 feet from a place of worship, playground, or public park.
Oh, okay, it's just not, I'm sorry, it's just not spelled out on this. So, in any event, I think it's really helpful to see that, which I hadn't seen before they sent this, and I would think that we could probably post this someplace other people can see it, because I think people should just be aware of what they're getting into. I'm not particularly concerned about this. I drove up to Maine this summer and I looked coming and going about what kind of establishments were there, and they all were fairly small in scale and fairly discreet. So I was reassured in terms of what a cannabis operation looks like.
Yeah, I was just recently in Great Barrington, Mass, about less than a month ago. Purchased some barbecue actually from Mama Lowe's, and the stores just seem very subdued, so to speak. It's not like it's out there, you know. There's no big. I didn't see any big pot leaves, and I didn't see a bunch of potheads walking around smoking pot. And,
Although, as you've said, a liquor store does have liquor bottles in the window. So, I mean, don't they? Yeah. I don't know. I'm driving too fast, I'm sure, but. Paul, you had talked about the specific thing about
well, yeah. So that was actually we had gotten an email from a local resident who asked not to be named because they have received their license for a farm.
Right, but I mean, is that in this? Because I thought we asked her to do it.
Yeah, no, it's in here. It's oh, I read it. Because basically it says refer back to the New York state law, which is already there.
Okay.
Hang on. I'll find it again. Dispensaries, retail premises.
Oh, there is something number 2 in section D. Retail dispensaries are permitted on or within
25
miles
right, yeah.
of cannabis cultivation premises pursuant to an ROD, which is what?
It's like a micro license.
Okay. Or micro business. retail dispensary license in accordance with New York cannabis law in this section. The only thing that concerns me about that is that it's not then really zoned, is that, you know, especially if it's a micro business, it could be in a residential neighborhood.
So that New York, I would not see New York State approve a micro cultivation license in a residential neighborhood.
But it does say that. I mean, that's what the text says. I mean, not that it's in a residential district, but I mean, I know there's cannabis cultivation along Old Route 22, and there are houses along that part of Old Route 22. So, I mean, I just think that we need to be conscious of the fact that we may get pitchforks and torches over that question as well. So I just want to bring that up so we can kind of think about that. And I guess I mean, the next step is just saying that we're comfortable with all of this. Since Rosanna had a specific objection, it'd be nice if she were here. But I would sort of like to do a little more research on that. I'm sorry to be delaying this yet again, but I'm just concerned about that piece because I think that, you know, it's one thing if we restrict it to highway commercial and hamlet mixed use, but that doesn't really have a zone attached, other than
I've always been in favor of allowing a farmer to earn money, and we have farm stands. You know, these are just farmers, right? They're just farming a different type of product. It's not like we're allowing people to consume or smoke the product on the site. If someone just wants to sell their product, I would be far from me to stop a farmer from opening up a farm stand on their property and selling their product.
I'm not worried about that, but when you see how specifically controlled access is to a cannabis dispensary, it's sort of hard to imagine that a farm stand is going to be able to do the screening and the,
they're going to have to follow. They're going to have to follow the same New York State law as any other, you know, dispensary. From everything that I've read and can understand from an on-site selling point of view.
Okay. Okay. So
I mean, that's how I understand it. I could be completely wrong, but I'm pretty sure that New York State wouldn't allow someone to open up just any kind of store and not, you know, not regulated.
It's just that farm stands tend to be pretty casual.
I understand, but I was using that as an example, right?
No, but I think that's the idea, is that the farmer ought to be able to sell his product.
Yeah, on their property, but they're still going to be regulated the same as if it was a dispensary in the center of town.
Okay.
That's what I would think.
Thoughts on this?
Well, again, I don't, my whole concept of a farm stand is not a dispensary. Yeah, my concept of a farm stand is, you know, we see them all around here already.
All right, so it was a bad example.
It's a bad example.
It was an example of allowing a farmer to be able to sell their product without having to go and rent a store in the center of town, right? So if they're a farmer and they can sell their product, they can sell their product within their own building on their own property.
So essentially have their own dispensary at the farm.
Right, they would have that. They would have their own dispensary on their own farm. I just used that as a farm stand idea of allowing a farmer to be able to sell their products at their own residence of where they cultivate it. That's the whole point of the micro business law from New York State.
And it's a business law.
Right.
So they have to be zoned properly to run a business.
I'm sorry?
They have to be zoned properly to run a business on the site.
Yeah, well, it's in the New York State, it's in the law that I've shared with you guys multiple times.
Long ago. Nicole, anything? No. No? All right.
If the board would like, I can also review this and add comment.
Yeah, because you just got it.
Yeah, I just only got it,
recently.
so, and just looking over it now, there's a couple things here that should be looked at. So
Okay.
Actually, Leo, Rosanna said she didn't like the 200 feet. Did she say what she would be okay with?
I'm trying to remember. I think she said 500, but I don't want to misquote her.
Okay.
But I know that she felt that, yeah, I think she was talking about,
She probably thought
making
that
it-
because of if it's school grounds and playgrounds, how can they be different? How can it be closer to a playground?
yeah. Yeah, that was basically it, I think, was that it
And
should be
not a
the
school.
same, it should be the same difference. And.
What's confusing to me is that the basketball court isn't marked out on our map.
As a playground?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I did notice that.
I mean,
when
if that was
first
put
saw
on
it.
there, that would reduce that much more space. And didn't remember we discussed about having the,
Beth David right down the road.
But it doesn't,
Beth David is right down the street.
yeah, no, but it's on that map, and it doesn't even come
but it
close.
doesn't here, Brad. So that's Beth David and that's
So, and then the other thing
basketball
was,
court.
on the street corner, remember we discussed about the square, the fountain?
Uh-huh.
If that was zoned as a playground or a park for the 200 feet, if those two locations were zoned, then that would basically take out every area that Rosanna was concerned about.
I'm sorry, the library basically takes out the fountain. Fountain Square is included
Yeah, but it
within
doesn't
the...
include that little spot right there on the corner, whatever, where we know that there was interest shown.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I guess we have to decide whether Fountain Square is a park or Fountain Square is just like a square. So,
Well, I think we consider it a park, don't we? Fountain Square Park.
I've never seen anyone in there playing, but anyway, there are things that we just have to,
Okay.
kind of clear up, I think.
The town of Amenia's, it says public park. I mean, we have a playground, we have a basketball court, wouldn't that be considered a public park?
Oh, that is, I'm just saying
Yeah.
that Fountain Square is not, there's no grass, there's no
Right.
place to play, so is that a playground or a park, or is it should it be considered differently from that?
That's a good question.
So, anyway,
I think if
Ian,
we-
put that on your list.
If we got those two locations clarified,
Okay.
I think that would resolve Mrs. Ham's
Okay.
concerns.
Put that on your list, Ian, about whether Fountain Square is a playground or park. I mean, in other words, whether it is a different type of space as a public space than a playground or a park would be.
I mean, the board could always designate it if it so choose.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The board could designate it if it so choose. It's your law, you're making it, you're regulating it. So if you don't want it around Fountain Square, then you can just indicate Fountain Square.
We could designate that as a park,
Correct. Well, you designate it as
public place.
yeah.
I think Leo's right.
That makes it even easier.
I think Leo's right, though. The map
I don't want
already,
to make it too complicated here, this whole thing.
I think you're right, though. The map already has that Fountain Square out.
Yeah, but it doesn't cover the
Because the-
corner. You know where tent is currently?
Yeah, but are
The
you-
tent corner, okay.
But the
Doesn't cover
tent
the
corner
tent
is
corner.
open, isn't it?
Yeah, so if we designate Fountain Square, that creates a 200 zone buffer, and then that'll pull that whole entire street corner, would make it to where there wouldn't be a dispensary in the center of town.
I think that if we leave it alone, if we consider Fountain Square to be a public space and not a park or playground, then I think we don't have a problem, because that circle does avoid the corner.
But we want to exclude, we don't want anybody opening up a dispensary right in the center of town.
Well, didn't you just mention tent? Or were you saying you don't want
That
someone
we
to
don't
open?
want anybody opening up in there. That was Mrs. Ham's greatest concern, is that we would have a dispensary opening up directly on a street corner at the red light in town.
What?
It's a bus stop.
Well, kids get dropped off everywhere.
They have
but-
to be 21, though.
Yeah.
They have to be 21-year-old
Yeah,
kids.
but that was her biggest concern. She didn't want the people driving through the community and us having a dispensary right in the middle of town, and I agree with her on that.
Okay.
And then, that's why it kind of left, out here at Freshtown, it kind of left a little bit going down Mechanic Street, and then it left out here by the, out by the an ice cream shop.
And you think that if this circle were that size, that it would exclude Monty's?
If we do the 200 feet at the playground, just do the 200 right here at the playground, then it solves it. Everything on Main Street.
Okay, well, Ian, you'll give it a once-over?
Yeah, I'll review it, I'll make comments, I'll circulate comments to the board.
I think the other thing that we should think about is, I mean, because everyone seems more worried about this than me, is parking. I have some concern that something like Tent or something like that little Greek Revival building next to the gas station, I mean, there are buildings downtown that have no parking whatsoever. And I just think we need to figure out whether that's something that should be mentioned in this law, whether parking should be required or not. I mean, obviously, there's
Parking is required in New York State law.
Yeah, but you know, the planning board allowed the Stone Leaf to count spaces in Four Brothers and on Main Street and the library parking lot towards the number of spaces they were supposed to have.
But
So-
that's the local planning board. New York State law in the regulations, they have stricter parking and acts, like you have to have direct access to a main road so the police can respond in a fashionable way.
Okay.
There's a lot of strict rules
Okay.
already there by New York State
Okay.
that regulates all this.
All right, so I just think that's something we need to confirm, and then hopefully we can have a resolution next time. Okay, any other comments on that? I guess not.
Do we want to send that to the planning board for comment?
Oh, right. Do you want to do that, or do you want to wait until the next iteration?
Whatever the board wants to do, you can do it simultaneously, you can wait for a cleanup.
I mean, I guess if we do it
however you wanna do it.
simultaneously, if they have any comments, then we can incorporate all the changes at once.
I'd like to
so-
see it simultaneously.
Yeah.
We started on this in January, now here we are in September. I'd like to get this wrapped up.
I'd like the highway garage to wrap up, and that's
So
been
would
like
I.
10 years.
I know.
So I'll send it over to the planning board.
Huh?
25 years?
When I was in 1997, they were talking about
Okay, the lighting at Town Hall I mentioned in the supervisor's report, and again, I'm just going to try to get a lighting designer to give us some.
Question about that. I mean, how difficult is it just to have a motion detector light? I mean,
Oh, no, those are easy, that wouldn't even have to be included in this. But the lighting for the flagpole does require someone who knows what they're doing, and if we're going to light the entrances and kind of replace.
Well, I'm thinking of the expense of a lighting designer versus, just putting up a light, that we direct an electrician to do.
Sure, but that's why the outside of the building looks like a penitentiary, because it's
don't
just
think-
been random lights
Well, I
cut
don't-
by random electricians.
I don't think it looks like
Rather than hire-
Alcatraz at all, but
Well, I'm an architect, so I overrule you.
Rather than hiring a designer, you can think it just a electrician.
No, because I think that's why we're in the situation we're in, is that every light fixture outside is different. They've been added over time.
I think that-
all the wiring is tubing on the outside of the building.
I
which is
think
like
that
crap.
you're gifted as an architect could certainly oversee the project.
Yeah, but the issue is figuring out where lights have to be placed, what the range is, and
Anyway, that's
how
just.
that'll work.
that's
No,
just-
I understand
just my
that, but
comment.
I-
I
you know-
thought saving some money from the town versus hiring an architect in lighting art.
Right. Well, we should find out, I
be
mean,
something
I'd
we
like to
should-
find out what it is. I'd like to get it.
Would be something we should discuss anyway.
Okay,
Yeah.
and we will.
Is there any chance the public can comment after they hear what's been discussed?
Oh, you're going to need to go to the microphone next time, but I have actually, you're not the only person who asked about having public comment at the end as
After our
well as the
discussion.
beginning, so we'll talk about that as a board as well.
Might be worthwhile.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that because they would want to respond to things we've said, except that we may get cranky by then. Okay, so December meeting of the board. So because of the holidays, I thought that it might make sense to have a single meeting on the 12th. And so in other words, the second Thursday. The second Thursday and skipping the first and the third
third.
Thursday. So just look at your calendars. We certainly have plenty of time between now and then.
I'm looking at it now. I can go. I can do the 12th.
Okay.
We're starting it at 4 to make up for the 2 days.
Well, also, it'll be getting dark earlier. Let's see. Okay, you can all look at our phones.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can
I'm
do
good
the,
the 12th.
Whoa.
definitely do the 12th. All my meetings are on the 19th,
Yeah, I
so
don't have anything on the 12th.
that would be
Okay.
perfect.
Well, anyway, if anyone has a concern about either that we need that meeting or that you can't make it,
Well, I guess it would really come down
At
to
7
if we
p.m.?
have the budget set.
I guess, I mean, we can change that, but I would assume it would be 7.
Wouldn't it really come down if we had the budget set for the following year?
Yeah, although maybe I'm a cockeyed optimist, but I am hoping it'll be done before then. Okay.
By law.
Rosanna was going to, I just realized Rosanna told me she was going to talk about the Economic Development Committee role and responsibility, and, but she passed on to me something that Ken Topolsky sent to her, so I will actually just read you the highlights of that in terms of what they might do, because we need to figure out what that committee would actually be tasked with. So I'm just going to do this as headlines, as bullet points, and then I can send that out to everyone, or Rosanna can present it last time. Bullet points. Strategic planning is 1, 2, business attraction and retention, 3, market research and analysis, 4, community engagement, 5, infrastructure improvement, 6, workforce development, and 7, financial incentives and support. All of which, especially since I got to read the fine print, sound like it would be a huge step forward in terms of establishing a vital business district downtown. So I think if we can have a committee to focus on that, I think that would be a great thing. But let me send you the information and let me give Rosanna a chance to present that. Because she intended to, and I guess didn't realize this was when she was going to be away. Okay, budgeting. So budgeting is open, the meetings are open to the public now, and I wondered if we should ask Mike, well, we should first decide if we want to do it, but I wondered if we should televise those. I think that's 3 additional meetings, so it isn't a big expense. So it depends on just how transparent we want to be. In other words, people can attend the meeting, but it would...
What's been the past?
In the past, it hasn't been, but there's no regulation one way or the other.
I mean, it's also, we got to take into consideration the cost, right?
I'm sorry, the cost of
Televising.
televising it? Well, it's $100 per session, so it's a $300
So it's
total.
$300, so I think we should spend the money.
Anyone else?
I think that's wise.
Okay. All right, well then, I will check your schedule, Mike, as soon as we have specific dates for meetings.
Need a way to see if people like what they're watching on TV.
Can you imagine the trouble we're going to get into? But at least they won't, at least they'll be home with pitchforks, not here.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next thing is our single resolution for the evening.
And that is number,
99.
99. Wow, we should have a prize when we get to 100. So that is,
maybe it'll be the hemp law.
I'm sorry?
The hemp law, the marijuana.
Oh, here it is. Oh, cool, that would be exciting. So I'll read this. So Resolution 99 of 2024, authorizing settlement of tax cert proceedings commenced by Joseph Lopane and Eliza Lopane, whereas there's now pending in Dutchess County Supreme Court tax cert proceedings commenced in 2023 and 2024 by Joseph Lopane and Eliza Lopane regarding a parcel of property located at Amenia Union Road in the town of Amenia, tax map number 1320000-7266-00-301-015-0000, seeking a reduction and correction in the 2023 and 2024 assessments for the respective tax rolls. And whereas the town assessor and special counsel Council have recommended a settlement on the 2023 tax review proceeding, and whereas the petitioner has agreed to discontinue the 2024 proceeding, now therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby approves the settlement of the tax review proceedings for the year 2023 on behalf of the Town of Amenia as they pertain to the parcel identified as follows. Tax map number 132-000-7266, 00301015, 0000. So on the 2023 assessment roll, I don't think they have 2024 on the next page, no. So we're just looking at the 2023 assessment roll. The original assessment was $1,786,000, and I'm sorry, $786,500. The original agricultural exemption was $1,050. What? $1,059,800. So the original taxable value was $726,700. So the revised assessment instead of 1.8 more or less is $43,600. And the revised agricultural exemption drops also to $965,800. So the revised taxable value goes from $726,000 to $677,000, and that reduction is $48,900. Okay. Page 2. 3, the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby approves a stipulation of discontinuance of the tax review proceedings seeking a reduction of the 2024 tax assessment roll on behalf of the Town of Amenia. 4, the Town Supervisor, Town Assessor, and Shane J. Egan, Esquire, Special Counsel of the Town of Amenia, are hereby authorized to take all actions necessary and appropriate to effectuate the terms of this resolution. I'll make that motion, but I do have a question.
So do I.
Ian, is there anything further that...
I'll second it, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, you need a second first.
Yeah.
Is there anything further that we need to know about this? I mean, I know that our attorney has been the tax attorney has been working at this for a while.
Yep.
And I know that the tax assessor and he both feel this is fair.
Yeah, and it's also been approved now by all parties in the action, including the school district.
Oh.
So everyone's approved it. We're the final to approve it. If the board approves it tonight, they can sign the consent judgment.
Got it.
So I see a reduction in the overall taxable value, but I don't see what it's costing as far as last time we were kind of provided with what it was costing tax-wise.
Actually, I have
There
that.
is a memo in
Oh,
the packet.
Brad has that.
So under the terms of the judgment, there is a refund to the town has to pay.
There's a refund to who?
The town has to pay in arrears. In other words, that's not the right
Yeah,
word,
yeah.
but they have to pay back the overage in the taxes.
Okay.
But, I mean, the overage, the biggest one, of course, is the school tax, which is $536. It's not a big deal. So the total is $876 in the whole payback. So this is a pittance compared to several that we've done in the past.
There was a memo provided.
Yeah.
There's a
By email.
legal memo that was provided by
Yeah.
Shane explaining that, yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
that's it. All right.
Well, that's reassuring. Good to know.
There is
Yeah,
a
it's-
small
it's-
town
Needs to
refund,
be settled.
Yeah.
but that was for the single year, 2023. 2024, they're just going to discontinue that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, that's great. So then we can vote, I think.
Supervisor
Dawn
Blackman?
Marie, yes.
Council members Winters?
Yes.
Repillard?
Yes.
Ahern?
Yes.
Okay, anyone have other matters?
Oh, is it town board comments or other matters?
That's other matters.
All right, I don't have any other matters.
I'm going to, go out on a limb here and ask again if anyone has any public comments. What do you think about that?
I have a
I'd
question.
like to make a
Do you have a public
comment.
comment?
No, I had a question.
I do. No.
Question for the
Yes, Brian.
supervisor's report. You
Oh.
had mentioned that the title report, well, Ian's here, the title report is inconclusive. And you had mentioned that you wanted to proceed anyway, and I don't know really what that means.
So the letter that Ian just received this week from the tax, what, I'm blanking.
The title company.
From the title company, was that they didn't see any way that they were going to be able to solve this, that the papers that might answer it are part of a 5-year microfiching project that the state is doing, and there's no way to retrieve them during that period of time.
They're in year 5 of a 9-year plan of microfiching, which means that some of the records are not available. Therefore, I had requested them to say what would, I requested they provide what they would need to insure it. And so if there was a way that we could obtain the property through a legal action, that there would be some sort of title insurance behind it.
Therein lies my question.
And they're not, they wouldn't be willing to insure it. That doesn't mean another title company wouldn't look at it, but.
So what about a transfer of title? Will be open to reversions at some
I didn't
point?
hear you.
If there's a transfer of title to the town, will it be subject to reversion at some time?
Well, we don't know who to transfer, you know what I mean? There's
From to?
Yeah, so it dead ends at like in surrogate court, and they were able to identify a number of heirs, but not all the heirs.
Oh, boy.
So, I mean, we could,
Could we just take it, I mean, just to solve this issue?
I'm sorry, where's that from?
Like, just take it, because it seems like everyone in the community wants the town to
Well, that's-
enhance the area, right?
Well, that's why I feel like at a certain point we have to cut bait, since we've tried to fish. I know that Ian, you said there was a process where we could, have it officially transferred, but it sounded like it's going to go on for a long time and be expensive. And my
it
feeling
would be
is,
legal, you would have to take legal action, and again, I don't know if you would get a clear title to it, because you'd get some sort of substandard deed to it.
right.
And you're not going to have anybody have title to it, or provide title insurance for it. But if the board wants me to take further steps on to see if there's any other way I can resolve that and get around the fact that we have a title company that basically isn't willing to insure it, then I can take next steps.
I guess, well, two things. One is that, based on Dutchess County parcel access, it's just, it is one with the road, one with Main Street, that there's no separation, it's just one piece of property. Now, I know that is approximate, and that the county doesn't guarantee the information on those maps, but I also recognize that the town in past made some improvements down there, actually has made improvements over time, because there was a new wall around the raised bed, there was a flagpole, there was
Christmas tree.
there were lights put up, so there's been a whole bunch of work that's been done
All the way
there.
back to the 50s that I'm aware of.
And my sense is that, that the perception is that it belongs to the town, and I just don't want to, muck around with this. I do have one new contact that I got this week at the MTA to find out whether they have a map. I never got anywhere the first time. But my feeling is that unless something magically comes out of that I think we just have to, go bravely ahead into the wilderness, because the town has done it several times before without incident. No one has made a claim when the town has done other work in that space. And I just think, I just think we're not going to get an answer, and that while I appreciate the fact that Ian would like to do things correctly, I think in this case he's met his match. So
Kind of my job to advise them.
So anyway, my feeling is that we should proceed. And as I said, I told the Enhancement Committee that they should have another meeting of the Enhancement Committee to sort of take a next step, because they never quite finished
I
what they
heard some
wanted
really
to
good
do.
ideas about how they could improve it down there.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it move forward.
I would too.
I mean, my only proviso, I think we should too, total agreement. But I think the risk to the taxpayer is the amount that we invest in the property. That's the only thing, the amount of money.
I don't think it's going to be hugely expensive. I mean, we're
Yeah.
talking about paving, which,
I heard a lot about donations and,
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You've got much better sources than I do, Paul. We have to talk about that. I also think that there is, money that might come from a number of sources. But in addition to that, I mean, I would hope that our town highway department might be able to do the paving there. I think that, you know, there's tree planting, which is not a big deal to do. The garden club might even do that. There's some hardscape like curbing and stuff to do. But again, I just think that we should let them design something, find out what it's likely to cost.
If the town takes over the plowing, right, down there, because it's been being maintained by
Jeff.
Mr. Winsby there. If the town took it over, I've been told by a couple different people that are willing to donate and kind of change that up and make it look nice down there.
Great.
In light of the recent title report that has come in, if the town board would like, I will take another look based on that title report to see if there's any other legal action we can take.
You mean as to whether the title report goes any further than 1908, the stuff you think?
No, the title report stops.
You mean if I get something from the
If there's another
MTA?
legal proceeding, perhaps we could do it to figure out how to go about maintaining that property.
Okay. All right, well, I will let you all know ahead of the next meeting whether I get anywhere, and then if not, we'll just figure out what
We're trying to have an enhancement meeting on Monday at
good.
5:30.
That's great.
So I'm just waiting to get it confirmed.
Okay. Well, again, I think you should proceed with confidence because I think that we're going to have to figure out a way to do it. And there's no reason to, you know, sort of stop the committee from kind of coming to a conclusion about what they'd like to see there. Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to take a whirl on public comment. Does anyone have any further public comments?
I got a town board comment.
Right.
To add on to to our town clerk's September 15th announcement, after you guys get done with your pancakes down there at the firehouse, walk right on over here to Four Brothers. The Amenia Lions Club will be holding its annual car show September the 15th, starting at 10 a.m. It's open free to the public. If anybody's looking to register a car, please reach out to the town of Amenia, the Amenia Lions Club, and register your car. It's always a good time.
Do you think my 2004 Volkswagen is old?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. That's almost a classic.
I know.
Well, no, it is a classic now. It's 20 years old, right?
It's going to be 25 then.
Oh, is it 25? Yeah, it's 25. I'm sorry. It's
all right.
almost classic.
I'll try to keep it running another 5 then.
I had a guy 2 years ago bring in his brand new Tesla, so we accept everything.
Well, that's nice to hear. I like that you're accepting.
We're open to any donation.
Okay.
So September 15th, 10 a.m. Amenia Lions Club car show.
Are there other town board comments, and we'll do public comments after that? Brad, anything more?
No, the only thing that stuck out was, in my mind, was the farmer's market and the gym floor. I wonder if that's going to be an issue, depending on when the floor is done.
You mean, will the farmer's market be a problem if the gym floor isn't done?
Well, if they start construction on it, I guess that's the only...
That is a very good question.
Yeah.
I will, when I talk to the floor vendors, I'll let them know that we have a tentative date for the farmer's market.
I'm surprised the gymnasium floor vendor is busy after September.
Well, no, he was really crazy up to September, and then I think he had something backed up, and then he was getting to us, but they didn't give us the date when that was going to happen.
So all their work is June, July, and August.
Yeah, no, I understand. I actually, when I spoke to him, I said I used to design schools, so I understand. I know exactly where you are. Okay.
So that is going to be in the fall, the floor?
The floor is going to be, they still say it's going to be this
So I'll
fall.
let Chris know that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Yeah, because at some point well, as you well know, Brad, the pickleball is going to be interruptus, so.
Yeah, but pickleball can go
We'll
down.
discuss that.
Pickleball can go to the elementary.
We can't use it. Oh, the elementary school indoors?
It's been offered to you guys before.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not technically in charge of that program.
I'm just saying that it's been offered.
They just asked me all the questions.
Weebatuck School District has offered the elementary gym for pickleball
Well,
before.
and right now they have the new outdoor ones to
Well,
use.
again, they
But you can't use that in the winter.
I did check with the school board member about that, and it's listed as a construction zone. Well, not school's open now But now now the school's open, yeah.
Yeah, so now you can use those up there outside. And
Yeah, so on that subject,
so for any of the programs that would be affected by the gym floor, the rec commission should reach out to the elementary.
so I have a meeting on the 10th with Ray about this, and what,
About pickleball?
about using the courts.
Yep.
And he made it very clear that last meeting, that Amenia has to establish a league. They have to establish a league
To be able to be there?
to be able to use the courts because of insurance and liabilities and all these things.
Individual.
Microphone.
just wanting to play.
I tried.
But like dance, karate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want to come to a meeting on the 10th?
What time is that?
I think it's 10
I'd
a.m.
love to see Ray.
Yeah. That would be really helpful. I was trying to reach DJ, but that didn't work.
We're going to discuss the board meeting on September 9th.
Oh, cool.
We're going to discuss.
All right, who's got
Are there
public
any
comments?
more public comments?
So we
Just
can
getting
get
a
done and get
second,
outta
a
here.
double dip. Okay, go
Quickly.
ahead, Ken.
Thank you.
10:30.
I'm still Ken. I've come up and I've talked and I've written letters about the comprehensive plan. I know the chairman and the committee submitted a letter to you recently. Just want to let you know, in Connecticut, review of comprehensive plans are mandatory every 10 years. There's currently a bill in committee in the New York State Legislature, which is going to do the same thing. The last comprehensive plan review was 2007. As I've said before, if you go forward now, you'd be writing a plan, you'd be reviewing it again in 2041. This is a forward-looking document for land, yes.
Whoa, I'm sorry.
From
How do you think-
2007 to 2024, 17 years. From 2024, 17 years
Thank you.
ahead is 2041. Not going to be my problem.
Well, that's
My
something.
kids will have to figure out what they're going to do with the proceeds from the house.
Right.
But my point here is, it's going to become mandatory. I think your town attorney can probably say that's going to happen more probably than not. It's going to cost you a lot more money to do this in 2 or 3 years than it is to do it now. You are budgeting. You're budgeting without any idea where you're going. That's what a comprehensive plan does. You're going to be sending, how much is your budget? What is it, a year?
Around 2 million,
2
something in
million?
that range.
Yeah, you're going to be saying, okay, we'll spend 2 million, without knowing where you can save money. It is, and land use decisions, I'm just urging you, please look seriously at the request, and we are at a standstill until we get some guidance.
Because you need a planner. I mean, we need
Regarding the
to
planner.
budget for a planner for you.
Right.
Yeah, and
Right.
we're identifying sources of where there are grants and whatnot. You're going to lose $10,000 if you don't complete a document by August 17th or 18th of 2025.
Okay.
So
So
please,
we're at a point, we just need to agree to have a planner.
Yeah, we just need to put money in the
Yeah.
budget so you can get a planner.
Right.
I understand that.
and let us know that is what you're doing, so we could resume, our work.
Okay.
So, thank you.
You're
Thanks.
welcome.
night.
Judy.
Brief again. I sympathize with the supervisor on not wanting to see the different lights outside. I've been a graphic designer at various times in my life, including now. I'm looking at 4 different styles on the nameplates in front of the board members, and it makes me crazy because that's my job. But you know what? I'm not going to say every time a new member comes, you need to redo everything. It would be cheaper to simply pick a style you like, redo all of the lights properly where they are with sensors, etc., than it's going to be to hire a lighting designer. I trust the taste of the board. I think you can handle it. I think things like hiring a lighting designer is what makes average people trying to feed their kids nuts. Because
say that again?
I think the idea of hiring a lighting designer makes people who are living on fixed incomes nuts, because they think to themselves, really? We need to hire a lighting designer? Again, I sympathize, but I do not think it is a good public move, that's all.
Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, I was going to ask you after I asked Layla, and then I realized Layla isn't allowed to say anything, so sadly.
I'm going to go first, the pancake breakfast. Everybody has to put it on your calendar. It is the most amazing thing. Don't eat the day before. You have to have a strategy behind it. And it's like all you can eat. It's amazing. The trail to the train, I kind of want to reiterate, we have a responsibility to maintain that. So I noticed as well that there needs to be mowing along it. The wood portion of that trail is torn up because we have to plow it. It was just a really bad design. So I've asked the board before, but they really need to figure out a better way of us doing that. If it's purchasing equipment that can be done, we actually bid that out every year, but we're required to do it. Let's see. I'm wondering how much we have actually spent on the title search for Wassaic Park. The board speaks about spending a little money here and there, but I would like to know, I think the public should as well, how much we've spent both on attorney fees and on the title company. I don't quite understand the risk there is of doing something there, because we have installed lights, we have cabling there. At some point we've planted trees, we have torn down trees. So it's kind of perplexing, and it's been a year and a half now that that's been ongoing. The comp plan committee actually requested $30,000 to hire a planner. That was in their budget request. I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm working with Delaware, who we hired to do engineering for the water district, and they're reviewing water usage and billing. They aren't actually going to give a complete opinion on billing rates, but they have come back with some thoughts around how we might look at that. Of course, it will probably all be redone in another year or two once they do their whole report, but as we come up to this. I'll mention too...
I'm sorry, Charlie, you're saying that it's going to take another year or two to get a report from them?
No, we did not engage them to do a rate analysis, which is what they would ultimately do if we do that.
Okay.
Clearly, there's going to be engineering work that will impact what the rates will be. But in this upcoming year, as we go into budget season, we really need to address the shortfall in our user fees. So the water district budget, well, round, it's like $210,000. That's the expense. We only raise about $145,000 of that through user fees. The rest of it is raised through taxes. So we apportion that on assessed values. That's really not how it should be done. You should come very close to covering all of your expenses by your root user
Charlie,
fees.
I have a question on that.
Yeah.
When it comes to a term as a benefit unit, you're saying that the people who use the water, where does the rest of the money come from? Because does it come from people who were not using the water?
Well, so yes and no. Our current rate structure is based off, we have a base rate. We charge 3 different rates depending upon the type of parcel. So there's residential, multifamily, and then commercial. They have a base rate which buys them 5,000 gallons a quarter of water, and then anything above that they are charged $5 per 1,000 gallons, and that $5 is consistent across. The state comptroller requires you to actually ensure that you are billing based on benefit. So generally speaking, you would have a base rate would cover maybe some of your administration. So we have 2 people that we pay, I don't know, $8,000 or $9,000 a year who do the administration, the billing and stuff like that. And then we have a water operator that we pay $55,000 a year. So you may incorporate that in the base rate and spread that across all of your parcel owners. And then everything else would be paid for through usage. So lower users are charged, they're charged less because they use less water. Higher users, they have more. So you asked, are there people who aren't using water who are still billed for something? Well, they are in two ways. If you have a vacant parcel, you pay a base rate because you have a benefit by having public water supply, even though you might not be using it. And then the second, you will have an assessed value. Granted, it's probably low if you don't have an improved parcel, but we are assessing that difference between what we raise by our user fees, the 142, these might be a lot of numbers, and the total cost of the system.
My quick question is, the assessment fee is, for taxes is only applied to that water district, correct?
Correct, yes. So it's only the assessed values of the people who are in the water district, which are, was it like 300 or some odd users.
So again, I mean, yeah, you're right, it's a lot of numbers, but I was trying to simplify it into a profit and loss scenario.
Well, we're not at a loss because we raise enough money to cover our expenses of the system, and there's a little bit of money left over from that. It's that we are not really apportioning that by benefit.
That's my question.
Yeah.
So we're not.
We're not, no. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll come back to the water committee, who ultimately will give the town board a recommendation as to what the water rate should be for 2025. And this is important as we do our budgeting, because
It's a big question. Everybody wants to know that number.
For the water district people.
What people are going to be paying for water.
Which is
Yeah.
what made me curious about our previous water operator, because he did this whole report and he never had anything in it about how that money spent, how that was going to impact the people who actually have to pay those taxes. in the
Right.
district.
Yeah, and we're working with, hopefully next week we'll work with Nancy, who's the billing clerk for the water district, because there are a lot of parcels that, I don't know a lot, there's 19 or 20 that didn't pay any base rate. I don't know why that is. That might just be the spreadsheet I got. And then there's probably a total of 30 or so units, parcels that don't have really any usage or it doesn't make sense. So they may or may not have an operating meter. I think it's just, so anyway, I wanted to bring that up. It's not quite a public comment. Where else? Oh, the last thing. So the water committee, I'm sorry, the wastewater committee has provided comments to to LaBerge, who is the engineer who's working on the map plan and report for the wastewater district. So we've sent them back comments, and a member and the supervisor and I are going to have a call with them next week to sort of review that. We just talked about benefit, so we ultimately want the user rates to be based off of benefit as well. So, if you have an unimproved parcel, but it could be improved significantly by having wastewater, that is a bigger benefit to you than, like a small 1,000 square foot parcel that has a, single family home on it. So that was everything. Yeah, thank you.
Well, Charlie, I had another question. I'm sorry. Whoever wants to go, I'm sorry. But I was looking for the last wastewater committee report. When was that issued?
So, yes, we were very far behind. So the draft of the minutes for all of the meetings that we've had up until tonight went to the clerk 2 days ago. Day
All right,
ago.
so I haven't been missing something.
No, you haven't at all.
It hasn't been sent.
No, it has not been sent, so I apologize. I will say that we didn't have a meeting 1 month, and then I forgot to get them approved. It was one thing. So
All right, thanks,
they are
Charlie.
all there, and tonight we actually approved all of our minutes with, so I'll send those tomorrow morning.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. So that all being the case, I move that we close the public hearing and that we go into executive session.
I'll second.
that.
Well,
What?
that's not, I don't think
No.
that's what you want to say.
That's not what I want to say?
I don't think you want to adjourn.
All right, what do I want to say? Go ahead.
I think you probably want to go into executive session for,
Oh my God, look at
just
this.
read number 4 out loud.
We're going into executive session for discussions relating to proposed, pending, or current litigation.
Oh, is that you making that motion?
I already,
Yes.
yes.
Oh, good, Leo.
It's just
And I'm
supplementing what I
And
said
Nicole
before.
wants to second that, and the time is 8.